Hi everybody, Minus here from Pantheon Plus, and this week we are going to push back our Races of Terminus continuation of that series to next week, because a topic came up that I really do want to spend at least a couple minutes on. So this will be officially the second Quickie with Minus. So we're going to try to wrap through this information pretty quick, because a Quickie with Minus really is to talk about a hot topic that's going on in the community and then push you guys to continue the conversation. So please, in the comments, engage one another, hopefully respectfully. I can't control the internet. But you guys know what the topic is because you've already clicked on the link, and that topic is damage meters. And the reason that we've decided to cover damage meters and talk about that tonight is pretty simple. On July 18th, Kilson, under the Pantheon MMO Twitter, said in one word, explain how you feel about DPS meters. This was pretty interesting responses here. I'm going to read through a bunch of these, and I'm sorry I can't give everybody's Twitter handle. I don't have the time to go through it that way, but I'm going to read through the responses here, and it was overwhelmingly negative against DPS meters. So first and foremost, we had garbage from Nathan Napalm, who is one of my best friends in the community, toxic. We had from Lexer of Voices of Terminus, bullshit. We had no. We had nah. We had needed. The first positive there. We had necessity, another positive. Self-correction was my answer, and I put a little dash between, so I cheated a little bit, but technically that makes it one word, and you guys know what I'm trying to say. We had EPing, back to the negative. We had needed. We had pressure. I actually really like that one. That's an interesting one, pressure. Training. We had helpful. We had fun. We had immersion breaking. Same thing that I did. Put a dash. I'll give them credit for that one. We had unnecessary. These next two are really interesting. Hate. Hate for a hobby. Depressed. Actually caused someone depression. Toxic. Somebody just said, why? And the last couple I'll read here. Elitist. Competitive. And we wrapped up with unnecessary. Okay. So as a whole, if you continue to read through, I think a majority of people who took the time to respond to this have probably had a little bit of a negative outlook. They don't want damage meters in Pantheon. So I want to paint a small picture, and then I want to get into my viewpoint, and I want to challenge everyone to continue the conversation. So first and foremost, I think that damage meters get a bad rap because people immediately take it and put it into the category of World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft probably popularized the damage meters more than anyone else by making them more accessible. Now, when I say more accessible, don't forget that EverQuest also had damage meters. In fact, any multiplayer RPG or MMO that you play is going to have some sort of damage meter. You can see it in even regular games that aren't as in-depth. The difference is that some games allow you to have access to this easily, like World of Warcraft. Whereas with EverQuest, you had to have somebody interpret the combat logs or run a parser script that would run it after, and they'd have information to it. So first and foremost, to everybody saying, no, we don't want damage meters, I want to make something very clear. Combat logs are going to exist. They're going to be in the game, regardless of whatever is done. So whether it's a wealth of information that allows us to have damage meters show right away, or it becomes something we analyze after, damage meters will exist. So now you have to ask yourself a question. Do you want the only people that have access to damage meters to be the elitists who really want to crunch numbers and spend a ton of time gathering that information, widening the gap between them even more and a casual player? You see, with a casual player having quick access to damage meters, it means that they can sort of level the playing field by being able to use it for helpful things. Now, you see, the reason people hate damage meters is because they all have a bad experience when it comes mainly to pugging. In pickup groups or joining a quick group in the community, there are people who are expecting a high level of performance and will harass or kick somebody out of a group because their damage is not where it should be in their eyes. Well, you see, the problem is that I have spent most of my career, over 20 years playing MMOs. I've done so with a guild or being a guild leader. You see, I haven't really ever needed the world of pugging. And when I did jump into it, it was something where I jumped in knowing what I was getting into. So once again, you have to ask yourself a question. If we say no to damage meters in Pantheon, there will still be people who understand the damage and are able to practice and train themselves to be better players? Do we want to take that away from those not willing to do the math? That's my first question. The second thing is that we definitely understand in this Pantheon community that the majority of people that are early adapters and supporters here really want a game like EverQuest. Again, EverQuest had damage meters. They just weren't as visible as WoW. And when we look at something that is associated with World of Warcraft, our community is, well, let's be honest, we're pretty likely to say nay. As someone who played WoW for 14 years, also played EverQuest, but played WoW for 14 years, I'm not someone who hates WoW and thinks that everything WoW needs to be away from Pantheon. Do I want it to be WoW? No, I do not. Do I want it to be classic? Yes, I do. But I do want Pantheon to be its own game, and I do want it to be a modernized version of the classic MMORPG. Now, when I say modernized, guys, I don't mean the modern RPG as used in quotes. I mean that I want them to take that classic MMORPG and improve it. Simple as that. Let's get back on topic, though. Let's talk damage meters. Well, if it hasn't been obvious to you yet, I fully support, and I think that it's very important damage meters are in Pantheon. Now, let me tell you why. As a guild leader, I use damage meters with my community and the people I cared about to help them learn their class and get better at the game. I took people who were afraid to raid in World of Warcraft altogether. Never did it because they were afraid of the pressure, which is one of the words used and why I said that was important. They were afraid of the pressure of being in a raid, so because they were afraid of that pressure, they decided they were never going to do it. They didn't think they were good enough. With the use of damage meters and being able to look at what they achieved, or with the use of combat logs, which would generate after on sites like WoW logs, I was able to look in and actually get a good idea of what they were doing when they were playing. That's something that's pretty tough to do without damage meters or without logs while you're also trying to play the game. As a raid leader, a guild leader, I needed to contribute the most I could because that was how I challenged myself to be better. I didn't do it so that I could compare myself to somebody. Now, have I compared myself to guildies? Yes, of course. We have great friends in a guild, right? And when you have great friends, you're always busting balls. So we always did it in a fun, competitive way to push each other, to be better, to be stronger, to learn. And we would then take that learning and we would then give it to the guild. See, the problem is I've even had a massive debate in Rainborn, the guild that I'm a part of for Pantheon, on this topic. And there are people who swore to the heavens that this is the worst possible thing you could ever have, and it has never caused anything but negativity in their MMORPG experience. Well, I disagree. If you put yourself around people who are going to use this tool in a negative way, is it the people or is it the tool? You see, this debate can be used across all types of mediums, and I'm not going to get into more details, but having a tool does not necessarily make it evil. Does not make it ruin your experience. I've never met anybody in any MMORPG that didn't want to get better at their class. Now, how they want that information, who they want teaching them, those things are different. But everybody wants to be better. Having a damage meter shows you how to do your rotation or how to use certain abilities in certain situations. It teaches you when you get new gear, you see yourself uptick. You see the growth of your progression by your damage. Without a damage meter, it's very hard to tell that. Yes, your base number of your attack will go up, but are you going to sit there and memorize your numbers that come up in a huge 5-minute battle and know that you did more damage or that you improved because you put on a piece of gear? No, you're not. A damage meter will tell you when an ability is better, when an ability is not, and it'll tell you when your gear is an improvement versus a downgrade, or what you should be looking for to improve your overall character. Again, as I said before, nobody plays to just be bad. Everyone wants to be a various level of good. There's some people that want to play and only be a top 10% player, top 5% player, and there's people that are fine with being in the average percentile. But what it comes down to, very simply, is it's not the damage meter that's making the negative, it's who you're playing with, whether it's a pug or not. And that's where I'll go back into how important it is to be in a guild that's right for you. If you are a player who wants to be in the 50th percentile and enjoy the game at that level, then you need to find like-minded people and play. And you'll have every fun experience in the book and damage meters will never be a problem. But if you want to achieve the highest level of content, well, then you need to perform at the highest level of content. I don't think that's really crazy to ask. Now, in my guild, in my community, and the people I interact with, I believe that every type of player should be able to play together. I believe that using damage meters, I've helped players who didn't understand their class go from being bottom 2 percentile to being top 10. I've seen it. I've done it multiple times. Without damage meters, I don't think I would have been able to do that. I wouldn't show them their improvement that would make them more excited when they went up from 2% to 5% to 10% to 50% out, and they understood their class better and how to use it in situations with damage meters. I personally feel like it would be a huge mistake if Pantheon did not allow damage meters. I understand the fear, I do, but I would urge you all to look at who you're playing with. When you remove toxic people from your playing circle, then you have a lot more fun. And in a game that is going to require us to group and require us to have a good reputation, I think that the game itself will limit, not eliminate, but will limit the amount of that toxic experience. And furthermore, push guilds in the importance of guilds, which I truly believe is one of their objectives. So if their objective is to push community, to push reputation, to push guilds, I think it's going to be a lot easier than ever before to find a guild that works for you. And if you have a guild that works for you, those damage meters go from being a negative, depressing situation into helping you learn and grow. So that's my piece. It's a lot of ranting. I apologize. But I hope you can at least take a little bit of what I've said, regardless of where you stand on the spectrum. And you can throw in the comments whether you agree or disagree. But I think it's a really important topic to discuss. And while I am heavily on one side of the opinion, it does not mean I'm right. Convince me if I'm wrong. But I hope you do take the time to think about some of the stuff I said. Everybody, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Pantheon.